Welcome back to Sports by GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Jeremy Lapidus. If you are just tuning in, we just finished everything to do with hockey. We broke down Game 6 and really the entire conference finals on both the West and the Eastern side. And we did predictions for the Oilers versus Panthers. We also talked about in our first segment, Justin Jefferson signing his record-breaking extension with the Minnesota Vikings. In this segment, though, we are going to finish off our show strong, moving out of hockey, moving out of football, going back to basketball, talking about a little WNBA and Caitlin Clark and what is going on really in the entire league surrounding her, because that's kind of been the big story. There's a lot going on there. But before we get into that, remember, if you would like to be an even bigger part of the show than you already are, all you need to do is go to GSMCPodcast.net. Leave a tip or donation with a message in it. That message should pop up on the bottom of the screen for you, me, and everybody else around the world to see. If you do have a burning question about sports, go ahead and leave that in the comments. I will get to that as soon as I possibly can. I appreciate all of you for sticking around and talking some sports with me on a beautiful Monday afternoon. But like I was saying, sorry, one more time, that link is gsmcpodcast.net. But like I was saying, we are going to finish off our show strong, talking about the WNBA and Caitlin Clark. And really the big story that's the most recent big story, I will say, because everything that Caitlin Clark has done in the WNBA has been a big story, from if she's going to where she gets drafted, all her games being put in the national spotlight, the charter flights now being brought in, so much more attention being brought to the WNBA. All of that, I won't say all of that, but a lot of that has to do with Caitlin Clark. And I don't want to take the shine off of all the other great WNBA players that have been doing their thing in the league, but it kind of was the perfect storm. It happened in the NBA with Michael Jordan. It happens for every sport. There's always that one person that comes in and brings in the popularity. And really what this boils down to is jealousy. Just like Kelsey says in the YouTube comments, it's jealousy. That's what it is. There's a lot of other reasons, and I'm sure not everyone is jealous and people are thankful, but they're all professional players, and to be a professional sports player in any league, you have to have some kind of ego, right? And to see all the attention, these women have been working so hard to get here and to bring more attention to the sport of women's basketball, and then all of a sudden this one girl comes in out of nowhere, and all of a sudden it's done. It happens. All the attention is there. They feel like, hey, why isn't that me? And I'm not in the brain of them, but that's kind of the vibes that I'm getting when I'm taking a look at all this WNBA news and all the crazy stuff that these players are doing. Again, if you aren't aware of what happened over the weekend, there was a game the Indiana Fever were playing against the Sky. And on an inbounds play, one of the Sky players just comes behind and basically body checks Caitlin Clark to the ground. And she embellished it a little bit, to be fair. She played into it, got the foul call, but still. It was definitely a cheap shot, and what really got my attention, more than the cheap shot, more than, more than really anything, was the reaction of all the players around on the court and around the league, right? And mostly on the court. On one side, you have the Chicago Sky, this team with Angel Reese on it, and they are jumping up, celebrating a cheap shot. They're letting this happen. After the timeout is called, they're giving her hugs, saying, basically saying, oh, that was awesome. That was awesome that you did that, right? And on the other side, the Indiana Fever, Aaliyah Boston, who was the number 1 overall pick last year, is inbounding the ball very, very close to where this all happens. She just kind of walks over really closely, doesn't really show any emotion, like, hey, that's my teammate. And it's less to do with, hey, this is Caitlin Clark, you should be giving her special treatment, and more with, this is a team game. You should be able to stand up for your teammates. I've I go to I just graduated from James Madison University, and I had the privilege of working every single basketball game, both men's and women's here over the last 2 seasons. So I was able to go and really get acquainted with the program, and if something like that happened at the women's basketball team here at James Madison University, the rest of the teammates, the rest of their teammates would have been there, and they would have stood up for them. It's it's something that it's not really a Caitlin Clark issue. It's more a, hey, this is just a teammate thing. You should expect it, and it just feels like really everybody in the WNBA is jealous, and it's a valid emotion to feel. Quite frankly, if you put yourself in their shoes and you work hard, and then all of a sudden Caitlin Clark comes in and steals all the attention, you can kind of understand where they're coming from. But as teammates, as people, you kind of expect them to stand up for it a little more. And I don't know what kind of punishment the WNBA should bring down on it. And I don't know if suspension is really the right idea. I don't know if that hit really is worth suspending, but it's something that needs to be at least like retaliated against internally, right? At least, and retaliation is kind of the wrong word. You don't want to get into a fight. That's not the right idea. Basketball isn't a sport where you're fighting, but you want to come to the defense of your teammate. And this is going to happen, right? It happens with all the best players. They're like, "Oh, this is the star. I want to come in and I want to make an impression. I want to," and that's some of it too. You want to make a name for yourself, right? Uh, but there comes to a point where you just kind of have to play basketball, and it probably should inspire them to be better, but it doesn't. This isn't a change that's going to happen. This isn't a change that's going to happen right away. This isn't a change that's going to come out of nowhere. I've heard people, like Kelsey is saying here in the comments, if there was hockey, they would come and stand up and there'd be a fight, right? But people have saying they need an enforcer on their team, and I feel like, again, that is too much. And you don't need a hockey, you don't need an enforcer to come in and start throwing punches. I'd like to see some kind of, and I'd like to see some kind of camaraderie on the team, something that shows that the Indiana Fever like each other, like Caitlin Clark. You spend so much time together. Like, I can't imagine that Caitlin Clark is that awful of a person that everybody hates her for good reason. I don't know her. Everything I've seen, she seems like a good person, a fun person to be around. But again, I don't know. Maybe there's something that I'm completely missing. But it's one of those things that as just as teammates in general, you expect some kind of camaraderie to be there and defend your teammate, really, at the end of the day. And that's the biggest issue I have with this. There are going to continue to be more cheap shots. There are. It comes with the territory of being the superstar of the league, the face of the league. It comes with that territory. You're gonna get more. There's gonna be more physicality against you. That's just what happens. Everybody, when you're going up against the great player, you step up your game, you play more intensely, and that happens, right? But cheap shots need to stop. There needs to be something, and they did say there's going to be a flagrant foul, but that doesn't really matter now, I guess. They ended up winning that game by one, so it doesn't really affect it. But we'll see what happens. Again, this is not going to be the end of the story. It's been like 10 games of this into her career, and this is going to continue to happen. It's just maybe the league will call it in game this time instead of having it happen after the game. But yeah, I'd like to see the Indiana Fever come together more as a team. And that's really the big thing that stood out to me, that no one came to her defense. It sucks. It really does. But hopefully that'll get better as time goes on. She's only been there for like a couple months, so uh, camaraderie will happen, hopefully, in the future. But anyway, thank you everybody so much for tuning in to today's episode of Sports by GSMC Podcast Network. I have been your host, Jeremy Lapidus. Tomorrow we will be back, same time, same place, talking about all the major breaking news around the world of sports. Thank you everybody so much for tuning in, and I will see you then. Bye bye. Let's go.